These are 6 Toyota trucks from roughly 20 years ago that could either be the best purchase you ever make or a total nightmare hiding under a coat of rust. And the difference between a truck that'll run to 1,000,000 miles and one that'll literally rot out your wallet comes down to details most buyers completely overlook. Toyota has built a reputation as the most reliable truck manufacturer on the planet, and for the most part, that reputation is earned. But around 2 decades ago, something went seriously wrong with a massive number of their trucks. Something so bad it resulted in a $3.4 billion class action settlement, one of the largest in automotive history. Today, these trucks are everywhere on the used market. They're affordable, they're tempting, and some of them are genuinely amazing machines. But others are ticking time bombs, and I'm going to walk you through exactly which ones to grab and which ones to walk away from. Let's start with the trucks worth buying, and there's no better place to begin than the king of reliability. The first truck you should buy is the first generation Toyota Tacoma with the 3.4 liter V6, specifically model years 2000 through 2004. Every first generation Tacoma is highly reliable, but the sweet spot, the absolute best years, are 2001, 2002, and 2003. These are consistently rated as the finest examples Toyota built during this generation. On Kelley Blue Book, the 2004 Tacoma pulls a 4.7 out of 5 stars from owners. And that's not a score you see very often from 20-year-old trucks. That's pretty much unheard of. So what makes these trucks so special? Well, simplicity. That's the word that keeps coming up when you talk to owners and mechanics who work on these things. Minimal electronics, straightforward mechanical systems, easy do-it-yourself maintenance, and an aftermarket support network that is absolutely massive. You can find parts for these trucks at any auto parts store in North America, and the forums are packed with 2 decades of accumulated knowledge from owners who've been wrenching on them since new. The 3.4 liter V6, often called the 5VZFE by its engine code, routinely surpasses 300,000 miles with nothing more than basic maintenance, oil changes, coolant flushes, and the occasional timing belt replacement. That's the recipe for a truck that will outlast your mortgage. Now here's the one little thing you need to know about this engine. The 3.4 liter V6 is the only engine in the first generation Tacoma that uses a timing belt rather than a timing chain. And that belt needs to be replaced at regular intervals, usually every 90,000 miles. If the previous owner skipped that service, you're looking at potential engine damage. So when you're shopping, ask for maintenance documents. If the seller can show you timing belt receipts, that's a green flag. If they can't, factor the cost of a belt replacement into your offer. As for pricing, clean rust-free V6 4-wheel drive, first generation Tacomas with documented maintenance currently sell for $12,000 to $18,000, and some pristine examples are asking north of $40,000. Even the average price sits well above $15,000 for a truck that's over 20 years old. That tells you everything you need to know about how the market values these machines. The second truck worth buying is the 2007 Toyota Tundra with the 5.7 liter V8. This is the second generation Tundra, and it represents Toyota's most serious attempt at competing with the Detroit Big Three in the full-size truck segment. When it comes to longevity, the results speak for themselves. Victor Shepard bought a 2007 Tundra and drove it to 1 million miles over the course of about 9 years. 1 million miles on the original engine and transmission. Now think about that for a second. When that truck hit the 7-figure odometer reading, almost every component was still fully functional. The only things that had failed were the sun visor detent on the driver's side and the odometer itself, which maxed out at 999,999 miles, because Toyota never designed the gauge cluster to display 7 digits. Nobody at Toyota ever imagined they'd need to. Shepard himself described it this way: "My truck looks great, and except for a few little dents, it's almost like new. Even the seats look just as they were when I bought it. They're not as clean, of course, but they're not busted or worn out. Toyota's own chief engineer, Mike Swears, called it a truly rare find, having a million-mile truck in as pristine condition as Shepard's, with so many original parts still intact. And Shepard wasn't the only one. A second Tundra owner hit the million-mile mark, serviced at the same dealership as the first. These aren't lucky breaks. These are demonstrations of what Toyota's 5.7-liter i-Force 5.8 can do when properly maintained. And by properly maintained, I mean Shepard logged 117 dealership service visits over those 9 years. He took care of his truck, and it rewarded him with 1 million miles. There is one well-documented issue to watch for on this engine, and that's the secondary air injection pump system. It's a smog-related component that can fail and trigger a check engine light, and it's been reported on Tundras from 2007 all the way through 2021. The repair isn't cheap, but it doesn't affect the fundamental reliability of the drivetrain. Just budget for it if you see a check engine light. The third truck worth buying is also a first-generation Tacoma, but this time the 1995 through 1999 models with the 2.7-liter four-cylinder, and this one comes with a very important detail. Buy it from a non-Rust Belt state. These early Tacomas rank among the most reliable compact trucks ever produced. Even now, well over a decade after the last first-gen rolled off the production line, trucks with over 200,000 miles continue to run well with reasonable maintenance expenses. The 2.7-liter four-cylinder runs a timing chain rather than a timing belt, and that chain is extremely durable. Mechanics will tell you it'll easily outlive the engine itself, which means one less major maintenance item to worry about over the life of the truck. But here's where geography matters. Toyota offered a 15-year, unlimited mileage corrosion warranty covering roughly 813,000 first-gen Tacomas from model years 1995 through 2000. Under that program, Toyota would actually repurchase affected trucks at 1.5 times their Kelley Blue Book value, regardless of mileage or condition, paying owners between $15,000 and $25,000 per truck. It was a pretty incredible deal, and many of the worst rust cases were pulled off the road as a result. That warranty is long expired though, so if you're buying one of these trucks today, you need to find one that spent its life in the Southwest, the Southeast, or along the Pacific coast, somewhere without harsh winters and road salt. A rust-free four-cylinder first-gen Tacoma from Arizona or California is a truck that could genuinely last another 20 years. A Rust Belt survivor with seized fasteners and perforated frame rails is a money pit you don't want to touch. Now let's talk about the 3 Toyota trucks you should avoid, and this is where the story gets darker. The first truck to avoid is the 2005 through 2008 second-generation Toyota Tacoma, especially any example that spent time in the Rust Belt. This is the truck at the center of one of the largest automotive settlements in history, and for good reason. Tacomas from 2005 to 2010 suffered from excessive rust and rot that compromised the structural integrity of the frame, not surface rust. Frames with actual holes in them, frames so corroded that the structural safety of the vehicle came into question. Some owners reported that airbags might not even deploy properly because the mounting points had rusted away. The root cause traces back to a supplier called Dana Corporation, which manufactured the frames improperly. Toyota eventually won a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Dana, and the cost of the second-generation frame replacements fell on Dana's tab. But knowing who's to blame doesn't help you if you're staring at a rotted-out Tacoma in someone's driveway. The class action settlement reached $3.4 billion. Toyota agreed to a 12-year inspection program and offered frame replacements for an estimated 225,000 trucks at roughly $15,000 per frame. That's how severe this was. And here's what matters right now. The formal claim window closed in 2022. So if you buy one of these trucks used today and the previous owner never filed a claim, that money is gone. You're basically on your own. One owner described the experience perfectly. His 2006 never rotted out completely, and he was proactive about it. applying fluid film annually and touching up any rust he could reach. But eventually, pretty much every fastener was seized. Simple repairs turned into major ordeals. The truck always started, never left him stranded, but living with it was a constant battle. Model years 2006 through 2009 were rated especially poorly for serious frame rust, paint disintegration, and engine problems, and even 2005, the first year of the second generation, was flagged as one of the worst for body and paint issues. The Tacoma's Kelley Blue Book rating for 2006 still sits at 4.7 out of 5 stars, which tells you something important. These trucks are mechanically reliable. The engines and transmissions are solid, but the frames were fatally flawed in a way that owner satisfaction scores don't fully capture. A truck can start every morning and still be structurally unsafe to drive, and that's what makes these so dangerous on the used market. The second truck to avoid is the 2006 through 2008 first generation Toyota Tundra. This is the truck that preceded Victor Shepard's legendary million-mile second generation, and it shares almost none of that truck's glory. The 2006 Tundra alone has 709 reported problems and defects. The worst complaints center on body and paint issues, engine problems, and transmission failures. Out of 504 National Highway Traffic Safety Administration complaints for the 2006 model year, 146 of them, nearly a third, are for structural issues. Drivers in colder states reported extensive frame rust, the same disease that plagued the Tacoma. But the Tundra adds its own unique headache on top of the rust, a persistent ticking noise during the first 30 seconds to a minute of startup. This problem typically stems from rotting or broken mounting bolts or cracks in the exhaust manifold, and it's particularly common on the V8 engines. It's not just an annoyance either. Cracked exhaust manifolds can lead to exhaust leaks, failed emissions tests, and in some cases, carbon monoxide intrusion into the cabin. RepairPal reports an average annual maintenance cost of $606 for the 2006 Tundra, with some of the more expensive common fixes, including new timing chain tensioners at around $1,340 and radiator replacement starting at $785. Those numbers add up fast on a 20-year-old truck that's already fighting corrosion. Toyota acknowledged these problems, but refused to issue a recall, a decision that drew significant criticism from owners and consumer advocates alike. The automaker admitted no liability or wrongdoing in agreeing to the settlement, which frustrated a lot of loyal Toyota customers who felt the company wasn't standing behind its product. The third truck to avoid is the 1996 Toyota T100. Historically, the T100 is an interesting vehicle. It was Toyota's ambitious attempt to crack into the full-size pickup market, dominated by Ford, Chevy, and Dodge. And while the T100 does have a loyal following for its overall durability, the 1996 model year is the black sheep of the lineup. Out of all T100 model years, the 1996 has the most reported problems at 130, which is nearly half of the 271 total problems reported across every T100 model year combined. The most common issue is structural, with 54 complaints related to the vehicle's framework. The words that keep showing up with Toyota trucks of this era are frame, structure, and rust. The T100 adds another dangerous failure mode on top of that, a broken steering relay rod that could lead to complete loss of steering control. Toyota issued a recall covering 1990 through 1998 trucks for cracked steering relay rods, which is exactly as terrifying as it sounds. Imagine cruising down the highway and your steering simply disconnects. The 1996 model year's worst module is its transmission, adding powertrain concerns on top of the safety issues. Across all model years, the T100 earns 4.4 out of 5 stars from owners. So it's not a horrible truck overall, but the 1996 specifically concentrates too many problems into one vehicle, and at 20 plus years old with potential steering and frame defects, it's simply not worth the risk. So before you go shopping for any of these trucks, Here's a quick checklist to take with you. Get under the truck and inspect every inch of the frame. Toyota's own standard during the inspection program was this: any holes larger than 10 millimeters indicated serious structural compromise. Use that as your benchmark. If you're looking at a Tundra with the 5.7 liter V8, check for secondary air injection pump issues. Ask whether the frame was ever replaced under warranty, because a truck with a brand new factory frame from the settlement program might actually be one of the best buys out there. And always request maintenance records, especially timing belt replacement documentation on the 3.4 liter V6. Here's the bottom line. Toyota earned its reputation for building trucks that last, and stories like Mike Neal driving his 2008 Tacoma to 1.6 million miles prove that reputation is real. That truck's first engine lasted 880,000 miles. The spark plugs made it to 704,000. The transmission held together for 1.3 million miles. Those numbers are absolutely crazy if you ask me. But the frame rust is also real. A $3.4 billion reminder that even the best manufacturers can get it wrong. The difference between buying a Toyota truck that'll be the best vehicle you've ever owned and buying one that'll drain your wallet for years often comes down to one thing: knowing which one you're looking at. Now you know which one's which.